Hello all and welcome to The Big Story, where we discuss the hottest topics right in the heart of the newsroom. I'm Haryanto, coming to you live from the Straits Times. Now we are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube, so be sure to comment, like and share our video. While you are at it, subscribe to our channel and of course hit the bell button to be alerted to our videos. Now I'll have my newsroom colleagues joining me to talk about the stories that got you talking today. Now in world news, the protest continues in Hong Kong as protesters disrupt train service during morning rush hour this morning. Now this comes after a news briefing held yesterday where the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, HKMAO, under China's State Council warned that if Hong Kong continues to be chaotic, the whole society will have to pay the price. The briefing was to address the clashes that happened over the weekend. It was the first such briefing in Beijing and was seen as an attempt by China to make its official position over the matter. A protester said that it's not their intention to cause inconvenience to people, but they have to make the authorities understand why they are protesting. They will continue with it as long as needed. To tell us more about this worsening political crisis in Hong Kong, I have foreign editor Jeremy Au Yong. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thanks, Haryanto.
Now, Jeremy, we have correspondents in Hong Kong. Tell us, what have they gathered regarding the situation now so far?
Right. So ordinarily, actually, we only have one correspondent based in Hong Kong. Our Hong Kong correspondent's name is Claire Huang. But the way things are going and how long and how serious this protest has been turning out, we actually have been deploying more people there.
Right.
So right now we have 3 people in Hong Kong. There's Claire, there's our regional correspondent Elizabeth Law, and a photojournalist named Chong Jun Liang. So the way they describe it to us, the situation on the ground is still tense, although it seems now that we are 8 weeks into this protest that it's settled into a little bit of a pattern. Today was a little bit of an anomaly, but generally we are seeing big protests happen on the weekends that has tended to break into violence. And then the weekdays is a little bit quieter. Although today, after yesterday's briefing, there were a little bit more protests than normal, I thought. And we're also seeing the protesters try and find new ways to gain attention and new audiences to target. So it's not just marching in the streets anymore. We've seen them organize this sit-in at the airport. Today they disrupted rush hour traffic on the Hong Kong MTR, which is like the MRT.
And Jeremy, so you talked about the briefing and we mentioned that as well. Let's talk more about the briefing that happened yesterday. What were the main takeaways of the briefing?
Okay, so first thing to be clear, they didn't really make any new points. The Chinese officials have, throughout this entire episode, have been speaking about it off and on. So everything we heard yesterday, largely we've heard them say before. It's just I've never seen them organize. They have never called a press briefing to lay out their position this way, to put it all together. So in terms of what was actually said, I think the 2 main points were, first, they condemned the violence. They called it horrendous incidents, and they called on Hong Kong authorities to restore law and order. There was included in that this warning that Hong Kong will pay the price. It's not super clear what that means. What price they're talking about. I mean, we are seeing some impact on business and tourism, but is that what they're talking about? We're not sure. The second thing they said that I think was a key takeaway was they were asked multiple times about Carrie Lam, the chief executive of Hong Kong, and whether she should resign. Her resignation is one of the demands from protesters, and the officials yesterday made it very clear that they strongly support Carrie Lam. So they don't want her to resign. And then if there's an addendum to that side thing, there were also questions about whether China would intervene through their PLA garrison that is in Hong Kong. They were asked this directly. They did not strictly rule it out. They didn't really answer the question. Instead, they talked about warning foreign countries not to meddle in China's affairs.
And Jeremy, now that you mentioned that it seems to be a pattern where weekends, that's when the big protests will happen, and then weekdays it's a bit quieter, not so much that's happening. Can we expect the situation to get better moving forward, or at least say in the next week or near future?
Well, it's quite difficult to tell,
Yeah.
to be honest. I mean, surely it must get better.
Yep.
I guess the question is how long that will take and whether it needs to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
If you look at Hong Kong's history, Hong Kong has in the past shown that it really can sustain a protest for quite some time. The 2014 Occupy Central movement, I think that lasted something like 3 months, and we are approaching that timeline already. So I guess my problem is I cannot see the mechanism now in which this is solved. Right now, the end game is not clear to me. There's no open dialogue between the protesters and the authorities. It's not like there's some kind of negotiation going on that can produce a settlement. It's also not clear that the demands from the protesters will ever be fulfilled by the authorities. They have said that they will suspend the extradition bill that started this whole thing off. But I don't think it sounds like they are going to do much of anything else.
Beyond that, right?
Yeah, there is a school of thought that thinks that until this has some kind of significant impact on Hong Kong's economy, that the authorities actually are not under that much pressure to take further action. So I guess all this is the answer is it remains to be seen.
Right, it remains to be seen, of course. Thank you so much again, Jeremy, for coming onto the show to tell us more about the situation back in Hong Kong. Now, again, for more news on the Hong Kong protest, do visit our website at www.straitstimes.com. Like what Jeremy said earlier on, we do have 2 correspondents who are there and a photojournalist as well. They will be giving us updates as to what is happening right in Hong Kong. Now, up next, mixed martial arts giant One Championship is now sinking its teeth into the lucrative esports space with its first planned events for the 2019-2020 season. Now, the new venture will kick off with a hybrid martial arts and martial arts esports event in Tokyo and a pair of Dota 2 competitions. Now, esports will also be featured for the first time in the COMEX Technology Show this year. Around 200 esports players from around the region will vie for a total of $35,000 across 4 tournaments and 6 game titles. Now, to tell us more, I have journalist Lester Wong. Welcome, Lester.
Thanks for having me.
Lester, I understand this is your first time on TBS?
Yes, it is.
Nervous?
Of course.
Don't be, because I know that this is your pet subject, esports.
I do like
right?
esports. Yeah.
And you're a player yourself, esports player yourself?
Not a very good one, but yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, so you do dabble in it. So maybe, Lester, for a start, if you could briefly just tell us what esports is all about.
So I think the short answer would be it's a marriage of competitive video gaming and sports.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really do justice to how radically new esports is. Even today, about a decade after the term first came into vogue, we're still adjusting our ideas as to what esports is. And I mean, it's a place where 16-year-olds can be the best in the world at what they do and become multi-billionaires for doing that.
Right.
And it's a place as well where, you know, all the viewership and all the action, I mean, it takes place in the virtual realm. So that's something that's very new. It's not quite happened before.
Right. And you've also, as we were speaking earlier on, you've likened esports to like a relationship.
Yes, I did, yes.
Tell us more about the analogy.
So it's really like the early stages of a relationship. So on one hand, you have video games, and on the other hand, you have sports. And so you lump them together, they like each other. But, you know, slowly over time, they've got to find out what the other person is like. Just like in any relationship, they've got to figure out how to live together. So what it takes to just stay together for the long term.
Right. You know, of course, like you mentioned, it's still new and all that, but the rise in its popularity can be seen. What has contributed to the popularity, and what is the esports scene like in Singapore?
I think there are very many factors to account for its popularity. I think the first, most obvious reason is how just everything in our life has been shifting towards technology and digitalization, and what we consume as part of our entertainment is that the same thing is happening with esports here. And it's, I mean, part of it's also how people in the past, they used to enjoy sports, and it's the same thing for esports. people start playing these games, people start to get really good at them, and other people discover that they would really like to watch the people who are the best at the games. So, and that's where the audience comes from, that's where the money comes from.
Right, and what about the scene in Singapore? What's the esports scene in Singapore? Is it picking up? Is it as popular as other countries?
So I think the esports scene in Singapore is picking up steam.
Yeah.
We have a lot of gamers, but the fact that there are going to be players who are going to the SEA Games November and December to try and win medals for Singapore for the first time. I mean, I think that's a big step forward in terms of attracting mainstream attention for esports in Singapore.
Yeah, and what do you think are their chances? You know, Singapore's chances in that.
Well, to be fair, I think we've got a shot at maybe winning 1 gold, maybe.
Wow. Okay.
A couple other medals, yeah.
Okay.
But don't take it from me.
But this is, of course, your hunch.
This
right?
is speculation.
Speculation. Okay. And of course, talking about players and. It is a lucrative business. Esports is lucrative, especially for one American teenager who recently won US $3 million. That is about 4.1 million Sing dollars. Yep. After winning a video game tournament, Fortnite. That's what it's called.
Fortnite.
Yeah.
Battle
Tell us more about that.
So in this genre, you basically get 100 players. You dump them on the map.
Yeah.
They all try to kill each other and be the last one standing. So basically, that's what he's the best in the world at.
Oh,
and
okay.
To put that in perspective, I mean, the 3 million, it's more than the Wimbledon singles tennis champion Novak Djokovic made. Yeah.
Wow.
He made about 2.86 million US dollars. Yeah.
My goodness, and he is only 16 years old, right? The 16-year-old Kyle. Now, of course, how many? And there were 100 players. You said.
Every single game there are 100 players, yes. But I mean, the different categories. So there was also, I believe, a pairs category where you compete as a pair and you try to get a last pair standing.
Right.
So there was a pair that walked away with also $3 million. Yeah.
But for him, it's solo. Yep. So solo 16-year-old Kyle won US $3 million. I wonder what I will be doing with that US $3 million. What will you do with the US $3 million?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell you offhand because it requires a lot of thought. I believe that Kyle said he was going to save most of the money though.
Okay, that's good. That's good planning right there. All right. Once again, thank you so much, Lester, for coming on to the show. To tell us more about esports and the esports scene. Now, definitely for all the gamers out there, for more news and videos on esports, you can visit our website at www.straitstimes.com. That wasn't too bad, Lester. For your first time, yeah?
Not too bad.
Was okay?
Yeah.
You're okay, don't worry about that. Now, earlier on, we spoke to foreign editor Jeremy to tell us more about the situation in Hong Kong, especially after the news briefing in Beijing yesterday that has sparked off some unpleasant situation in Hong Kong. And of course, we had our first timer right here, Lester, to tell us more about esports and the esports scene in Singapore. So that is all we have for you for Top Story for today. Now, for more news and videos, do log on to straitstimes.com. Once again, I'm Haryanto. Join us same time tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.